Recording in progress.
Hello, everyone. This is the Creative Mind Podcast. I'm the host, Janet Nelson, and this is my friend and colleague, Sherry Mann.
Hi, I'm Sherry Mann, and I'm helping Janet with her podcast because I feel like this is really important for the kids that seem like they're left behind a bit. And we found that they don't have to be, so that's
Amen.
really neat.
Yes, it is.
I have 3 daughters and 7 grandkids and lived in Washington now for 10 years. I'm originally from Ogden, Utah. There you go. That's me.
Yes. So what kind of jobs have you done?
I actually ran a restaurant and slash bar at the age of 12 in Utah. It was just done back in the 70s, and I did okay with it. I kept up with everyone and did everything, including prepare foods and wait on people. And then when we had a banquet, I'd have 2 other people come in for extra help. And then I went on to doing work building the winches on the backs of tow trucks in Milwaukee, Oregon, after I left home. I left home early at the age of 16. I then went on to raise kids for a long time, babysat other kids in payment of cars that I needed or something like that. Which I got a really nice car one time for babysitting. And so that was really neat. And then I went and came back into Utah after a divorce. But God is always so good. He got me started in doing work at a store, grocery store. So I was running the store after a few months of being there at night with the assistant manager. So I had a lot to do there. And then I got a
And you running it was it easy for you to learn the business to begin with?
Well, once I learned how to do the cash register, I could count the money down with the help of the manager, and I counted all the tills down. That was never a problem for me. What was the problem was writing everything down. So he would write everything down and make sure it was correct, because I could write just fine. Numbers and stuff I was never really good at. I don't know why. It just was one of those things. I just figured, well, I'll do the best I can, use a calculator, and I still do. The part I had trouble with is remembering whose till was whose, because that was a hard thing for me. I'd have to picture the person with the till, and sometimes I would bend a bill in their till. Oh, that's so-and-so's till. Then I'd bend a different one and think, okay, 100 for this person. I would relate a number to her or him. So that's how I did that.
But you ended up taking over when the owners were left as a manager, because you understood the basics.
Yeah.
And you worked with people well.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Great gifts right there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I went on to work at Albertsons for 8 years and then quit there and went on to own my own business, doing nails for ladies. Then I just couldn't do it anymore. Back then, we didn't know that you should wear masks while doing it, and I would get really sick from all of the odors. Finally, I got an asthma attack from it, and so I couldn't do it anymore. And so I went on to learn how to groom dogs, which I learned how to do for $20 a day. It was hard work. They don't just sit there. They do a lot. So then after that, goodness, what did I do after that? Well, basically I had back surgery, and it was a failed back surgery. And so I basically was put on disability, but I'm still able to do things. Just I can't stand for 8 hours, or I can't sit for 8 hours. I have to be up and down moving. So
You cleaned houses.
I did. I did clean houses. Yeah, until I couldn't do it anymore and
Yeah.
take care of Mike, my husband.
Yeah, but physically it was getting harder too.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm 64. So
yeah, we get the idea. Okay. So the other thing that's really interesting about you is how nature responds to you.
Yeah, they did. It does. Back in Utah, my friends called me Mrs. Doolittle. They did. Animals, wild animals come up to me at times. Rabbits, deer, they'll be with just a few feet of me. I've had that happen a lot. Ducks, while we were camping, came right up to me, like, "Hi, how are you?" It's just natural for me. So, the kids were all excited because, oh, Grandma's got all the ducks around her. But it's just a gift that I think nature is crying out for redemption. I think that's just my personal thought on stuff. They're interested in us if we take the time to, respond back.
That is
in a
cool.
peaceful way.
That is so awesome.
I found out it's all about peace. Peace in you.
Yeah.
Animals respond to that.
That is so cool. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
As we're talking about this learning style and how sensitive you are to the world around you, it responds back.
Yeah.
And that is amazing.
It really is. I mean, I think it's a God thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing I could do about it, just the way he made me.
Mhm. So what do you see in your mind? Words, pictures?
Pictures, sometimes words, like,
Are they written out or printed out?
they're written out.
Okay.
Well, no, they're printed, so I can read them better. And I also see things, I sense things around me.
Mhm.
I've sensed danger before it's happened. I don't know why, but I'm really sensitive to things like that.
Well, Native Americans are very sensitive in a forest. They can actually feel the fear before the animals even get quiet.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. It's like the dog. I've been learning that your peace the dog or cat or anything will respond to your emotions until you can center yourself within yourself with the peace, then they won't respond well. And when you do, and you stand up straight and you have the authority that you're showing the animal you have, then they respond better and will even obey without a word.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And they'll even come up to you because they know that peace is there and they're safe.
I love that. I love that. So you see in pictures, when did you start realizing that you see in pictures, and how did that feel?
Back when the book Dick and Jane came out, that says how old I am, and Spot their dog. I always liked books when I was younger with pictures because I could see them doing what was read. So the dogs, it says run, Spot, run. Okay, the picture sheet shows Spot running. Jane chases Spot. I can see Jane chasing Spot in the next scene. That's how I learned to read.
So you're actually making scenes in your head, not just pictures.
I have to make scenes. Like when I'm reading someone's autobiography, the first thing I do, I always hope they have pictures so I can put those people in my mind and picture them while I'm reading about them or their dad or mom or sister. If I don't have that, then I have to make someone up. Like I'll know who the person is that wrote it, but who's this person? Okay, I'll just make him like this. He'll have brown hair like the guy that wrote it or whatever, you know. That's how I.
So as you're reading an autobiography, how do you relate to it?
Well, I read those that inspire me or I relate to. Like Katharine Hepburn was someone I just thought was a very interesting woman. She did things that she was embarrassed about, but she wrote about it anyway because it was part of her life. She dated Howard Hughes. I was like, wow, really? The guy with the plane and everything, you know? And so I related to her because she was out there. She just told her story.
Sounds like you related to her emotions.
Her
as you read it.
emotions, yeah.
Okay. Can you remember all the details of her life?
No.
But
No.
you related to her emotional
Her
life,
emotion.
which meant that you really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I didn't remember but bits and pieces of it, even right after I read it. And what I loved about it was that there were pictures of the plane and her and Howard Hughes or whoever, Spencer Tracy, the love of her life, you know, that they could never really be together, but they still loved each other. And
It was really
it was
special.
special, even though to me it was the best way to do things, but I could understand it because of the heart.
Yeah.
And even his wife understood it, that they were Catholic, they would never get divorced. His son was deaf, and back then they thought he was retarded or slow. Back then they used the word retarded, but he wasn't, he was just deaf. Mm-hmm. And so he had to protect his son so that he would never be put in a mental institution. And so that was everything to him, was his family. But he loved this woman. And so I could relate to all of that emotional stuff going on. But to remember, you know, where they all went here or there, or, you know, or this portion of the book, no. I had a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Always have.
Sure. We had talked about they had actually kind of tested you about how your memory works. And they gave you 5 words to try to remember. You're supposed to remember it in word form. How hard was that for you?
It was really hard. The doctor would say 5 things: pencil, car, sky, desk. And by the time we got to the 5th one, I was still on pencil going, I need a pencil. I need to look at a pencil. I need to relate. Okay. And sometimes I'd ask you to say it a couple times. And you go, I'm not supposed to, you know. And then I could, I'd ask him to do it kind of slow so I could get it, but he didn't understand that. Somehow I made it through, but I was trying to hurriedly get a picture in my mind of each thing.
So what's going on in your mind is you have to figure out which pencil. So, and some of them are big ones, right? And some of them are different colors. You have to make all these decisions. You know, is it graphite? Is it a kind of pencil like this?
Yeah, I thought that was a pen. Okay, it's a pencil.
It's a pencil. Yeah. But you know, what kind of pencil you have to create in your mind before you remember the word pencil.
Yeah.
That takes time.
It does. And so back then, I would just hurry and pick yellow pencil. Hopefully it wasn't anything else, you know, so that I could picture in my mind.
Right.
A brown desk, sky's blue, car's orange, you know.
So you actually see your pictures in color most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless it's people, they're stick figures. If they're Irish, I have a clover.
Okay.
A 4-leaf clover. If they're Native American, I have feathers or a headband. But then that becomes a hippie, so I have to take that off and, you know, try to put a warrior or a woman.
Do you realize you just associations?
Yeah. That's why it was hard in school. I could read a book, but nouns, pronouns, adjectives, I could get some of it. Most of the time I got lost after that because there was never enough time to explain exactly what that meant, you know.
Or be able to put it in picture form.
Yeah. How do you
I
put
get
a
it.
noun in a picture form? I don't know how. Yeah, I'm 64, and that's why I'm on here, because I want other people to know that there's people that think like I do, that think they're stupid, and they're not.
We were at a women's conference, and there was over 120 women in that place. And the speaker asked the whole audience, how many of you think in pictures? And a third of the hands went up. This is very, very common.
Yeah, I didn't know it back then, and neither did the teachers.
Mhm.
They didn't understand me at all. One teacher said I could be anything I wanted. That was fourth grade, and I thought, how? I'm so slow at getting things, and yet in the real world, if I was in danger, I could react quickly.
Mhm.
I was unusually strong physically for my size, and so I was able to protect people.
Yeah.
That would shock people like my dad, you
Mhm.
know, like,
Yeah.
he's really hurt.
Yeah.
He kicked my dog. He's a grown man. Well, he kicked my dog. You know, I could, be out there doing life, but in a classroom, all of a sudden everything was like, take me to the art room, please.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. They did a test on Matthias, and they said he was a sensory learner through process weakness. At the time, they were still figuring out what sensory learners were. And so I didn't find that out till later, but that's what they told us. But they said the process weakness, and this is their example, was when they did a like a 5-figure drawing, right?
5 figures or 5 squares or what?
5 lines.
5 lines.
So
Okay.
5 lines, didn't matter what it was, it's just 5 lines put together on a
Okay.
piece of paper. And he was supposed to copy the 5 lines. And his mind, of course, went, what's this? How why are they? How do they come together at the corners? Are they sharp or is it curved? How does it work? His mind is creative. He's going to do the best possible drawing that he can.
I called it perfectionism.
Yeah. Yeah. But that takes time to think that through. But because he wasn't quick at it, that's the process weakness. So they're going, no, that for example of what you're dealing with.
Right, because I would get frustrated finally and just make a little one, which was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I made it.
Yeah.
Because you made me hurry.
Yeah, exactly. But this learning how does somebody else think is what something all of us are working at. So,
Well, I just recently found out that Mike, my husband, his whole life that I knew him, 31 years, he would draw things out. He's part Native American, and his grandmother was Native American, full-blooded. And he taught himself that he had to draw things out. And then he would understand it and show me. And I get frustrated because it'd be like, oh, yeah, how come you can do that? Why do you take so much time to do it? I'd be impatient about it. But he always thought he was stupid. And later on in the years, as they passed towards the end of his life, I realized how intelligent the man really was. And it broke my heart. He had the worst time in school. He hated school because he couldn't get it. He passed, but that was, he was so relieved. He walked home and that was it. Joined the Air Force and got
sure,
out.
sure. But when you told him Matthias's learning style and your learning style, what happened?
I told him, I said, you're not stupid. You're one of the most intelligent people I know. He goes, oh, no, I'm not. I said, I listened to you on Jeopardy. You're almost as good as my mom. And she only had a ninth grade education. she could answer just about all of those questions that came up. And she had a memory that was astronomical. You could ask her anything and she'd have the answer without computers, without anything. And I always wondered how she did that,
Yeah.
because she wasn't Native American. My dad, I guess it came from him, but yeah, the Irish have the same thing though. My mother was Irish and she never, I guess, I couldn't give her as an example because she only went to the 9th grade because she had to take care of kids. And but they tell stories like the Native Americans do. That's their life. They sit around and tell the stories.
Yeah, but when you're told a story, what happens in your mind?
Oh, they would say, well, the leprechaun is, he's green and he's got this and he's got this kind of hat, and you can picture it all in your mind as he's leaping around on rocks, and they're, they have a cavern underneath the world and all this, we knew they weren't very good people. So you weren't supposed to mess with them. But, the stories were just a lot of them fairy tales, but they brought out the I guess your side where you could imagine anything happening, and that's what I loved about the stories. Anything is possible, even before I was very old. So,
but it's also the way they taught you morals and what to do and what not to do and all those kind of things.
Yeah, my grandparents did. Yeah,
that's very awesome.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful way to learn.
It is, but harder in school to tell a teacher you got to figure this out on your own. Draw this. I'm going to figure this out. What are you writing on your paper for? Well, it's like that stick figure. Yeah, that's President so and so. Lincoln. He has a hat. Tall hat.
Oh yeah. Why do kids often doodle on their paper? Because it helps their brain understand what's going on in the classroom and what they're trying to remember or figure out.
Right. It does. It really does. Even if they're making circles, sometimes they're just thinking. And people don't realize it. Not all of them. Some of them are just goofing off, but most of them are trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. So how hard is it for you to actually stay focused though with all this stuff?
It's always been really hard. As I've gotten older, I can sit in a meeting now and not get up 5 or 6 times and with an excuse to go out for whatever. But I've had to force myself to sit and try to understand and try to get everything I can out of the message that the person's talking about, because I really want to know. I really want to know what gift they have so I can maybe apply some of it to my life. I take notes, and then I have to try to read my writing because it's too fast for me again. And, and then I go home and I try to figure it out. And then sometimes I just don't get it, and I don't remember what conference I even went to.
When a speaker speaks, does it help that if you have, we do slides anymore and that kind of thing. So does it help if they use pictures?
Very much so. Yeah. Okay. I love it when missionaries bring pictures because, then I can see, oh, this is where you've been. Okay. So this is where that happened. Okay. So it wasn't some obscure place in my head, but I could put it in my head if I had to, and
then you can put the stories that they're telling in context. Right. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. What you said is when it comes to, like I said, the noise and feelings and everything around you, you have to actually push it to this peripheral part of your brain and then focus on the immediate.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's compared with ADHD, but it's not.
It's not ADHD. People thought I was autism, ADHD, bipolar, all these words. And all I was frustrated, because I was always anxious to learn, excited even. And I couldn't always do that with my mind, push everything to the back. Like in school, it was really hard for me because I was poor. So everybody was out to beat me up. So that was always in the back of my mind in junior high. High school is a little better because they just pushed me through. They said, we're just going to graduate you because we know you're smart. You're just not learning. And I thought, I tried.
Mhm.
The one teacher that got everybody was the math teacher. He took us outside with the trees and the leaves and the bark and the ants, and he would teach numbers through the
Experience.
experience.
Yeah. And that's what I've learned about you. The more you experience things, the more you get it. It's not kinetic. It's not you putting your hands in it.
No.
We talked about that, like how you did plaster of Paris, and it was fun.
Yeah. But that wasn't the need.
But you don't learn science through plaster of Paris.
That was just relaxing my brain for a bit because it was always so tense.
Yeah. Matthias and I did a clay model for a Roman building. And we're supposed to learn about the Roman building, right? No, he learned about the clay.
Clay's really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but he would have loved that math teacher of actually experiencing math in real life.
Yeah, like, the trees out there, how many trees and this and that. And then he nouns and the pronouns of the sentence he was using and the leaves and just stuff. And then we got a little bit about the trees themselves along with it.
Some science in there.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Really?
incredible.
And he looked like an old show called Mr. Carter. And he looked just like him. It was a sitcom back in the 70s. And I really liked him. He was a great teacher.
Okay, so we've talked about the difference between the way your brain works and sequential learning.
Sequential, eh?
And I had to make a drawing for you.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
But this is the way my brain works. This is very sequential. Okay. So you give me an idea and I'm going to hook it onto another idea, and it hooks onto another idea and it hooks onto another idea. And I make big chains of ideas and how they all fit together. And you went,
I like the chain. Like I said, it looks like a cross. That's where I'm at. Sequential means nothing to me, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Right.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. And that's okay. So what I've learned is you get an idea and you get another idea here, another idea here, another idea here, and they're not coming together. But somewhere in the back of your mind where you're not even watching, all of a sudden it all comes together. And
yeah,
as we've talked about, it's a full cabin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay. But in the meantime, it was just floating ideas. And unless it becomes a cabin, it's going to go. It's going to leave. That's why you're going, I don't remember. Well, it didn't hook onto anything.
Right. My brain just doesn't hook things together.
Exactly.
I mean, talk about having a blueprint. I could learn a blueprint, I think, but I don't know if I could or not. I think I could, but just getting out there and having all of the tools and the necessary means and a tape measure, I could probably build the cabin. But having the blueprint, I don't think I could use it.
And that's okay. The thing is, you see the cabin in your mind. You see it finished.
Yeah.
And then if you need to, you'll go back and kind of figure out how to do it. I've watched you repeatedly and things come up. They have to be problem solved. And you see it finished.
Mhm.
And then you go back and go, okay, now how do I get to there?
Yeah,
But you got to see it finished first.
yeah, I do. Yep.
Okay.
And in school, they don't teach that way. They
Mhm.
want you to do the steps and learn the steps and then
Mhm.
get to the actual.
Right. They're putting together the links. Okay.
My links are everywhere.
Your links are everywhere and they're not chains. No.
No, I might have got two together. I don't know how, but they got together.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah. So how do you teach yourself like a chapter of history?
A chapter of history, a
Yeah.
whole chapter. Well, I would start by what I do because I'm still doing the schoolwork.
Mhm.
I'm determined to get through, even though class has been over. I have to listen to the person talking, write down and stop them, because that's why I couldn't do it live. I knew I couldn't. And write down what they said. And it's taken me forever. But then I can go back and look at what they've written, picture it in my mind. And then I can put like a note on the side to, okay, this is such and such. This is, okay, it's a Bible class. So I'll put like the Bible verse and then I'll go over and look at it. Okay, this is what they're talking about, but it's so far out from what, the teaching's amazing, but I don't quite understand it. So then I have to picture the person, say it's Jesus or whatever. Then I have to picture what he's talking about and see Jesus doing it. So I have to write down, okay, figure out Jesus is here. This is him. It's a little stick figure, and and I put a J up here. And then this is the Bible. So it's a book, and then he's all about the book. And what is this guy talking about? It's in the middle here. And I wrote it down. So this is where Jesus goes. This is where he's out in here.
You're
But
creating a scene.
yeah, rather than a chain.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a scene where he's like when they say he's up on a hill, I see the hill first. And then him walking up the hill. He's not there yet. He's got to walk up there first. And then the people have to all gather first. They're not all just there while I'm reading it. You got to walk in,
Okay.
and sit there. And then, okay, chapter 1. That's how I deal with it. It takes me longer. I can read a book fast, get the gist of it, but I don't know.
But you
much
get
else.
the gist of it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Well, so in school, they wanted more.
Yeah.
Than just
They wanted all those details.
The details.
And it's in those details that they're too scattered.
Yeah, because I can't get enough pictures fast enough or thoughts of the pictures fast enough.
Yeah. Doing pictures is time consuming. I was talking to Ruth and how she paints, and she was talking about desperation. And so what does desperation look like? See, that takes time to think about, doesn't it?
Yeah, right now I see a darkish person, with a cloak on and a dark black cloak and on the ground like this, desperate for whatever, crying out to whoever. I'm desperate, then I could put the word desperate up there if I could spell it right. That's another problem I have with certain words.
Sure.
And I don't know why. Because I was really good at English back when I would do it, but reading it's a different thing.
Wow, well, it makes sense. It really does.
I hope so.
So how did the questions at the end of a chapter help or hinder you from learning?
Well, if I had had the time that I needed, I could have done the questions. I'd get through part of them. most of the time.
What I heard you saying before was, if you really want to learn the chapter, you need to do it yourself.
Yeah,
Trying to do those questions, it was about doing the questions, but not learning the material.
right. I could do the questions
But
without, yeah,
but you didn't learn the material.
I never did.
Yeah, you had to go back and you had to take the time to really learn the chapter your way.
And you never had time in school to really do that.
Uh-huh.
Now they take time, but they still don't understand a lot of us.
Okay.
Or at least I don't think they do.
They're trying to figure it out, and
That's
I really
good.
appreciate their hearts.
That's good.
Mm.
Because there's too many people that think they're stupid.
And they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. How hard is keeping track of time?
I have alarms for everything. Feed the dog, get up. Calendars. I will look at the calendar. I will have something written down. But for some reason, I'm looking at the wrong week, or I'm looking at the wrong thing, the wrong day, or it's like, what? Okay, get the phone out. So the phone is right. Look up the date, the day, go back to the calendar. That's the day. Okay, because my mind is busy. Okay, what do I need to do today? I have to start with that.
Mhm.
And then I get ready to go. Like today, where's my keys? I was on time. I always hang my keys. I was like freaked out. They were in the car, no big deal. But it was like, it's so frustrating to me. I've always been late, it seems like, for everything. And to go to church, these last few weeks, it's like, yes, I'm on time. I don't know how, thank you, God. Yeah. But it can be anywhere I'm going to meet somebody. I have to make it and be ready even a half hour early and not get distracted.
Mm.
I have to have an alarm set. This is the time to get out of the house, have everything ready to grab and go, or I'll be late. Because then I'm looking for something I may have forgot. I still did that this morning, even though I had everything in my hand. So
I do understand.
it's very frustrating because I don't like to hold people up.
Understand. I don't like to hold people up either. However, there's always one more thing to do.
Yeah. I had to clean that last knife in the sink and this and that. And
So when did you start figuring yourself out?
figuring myself out. I'm still doing that, really. I've gotten better at figuring myself out. I'm 64, but the past 10 years, I'd say I started really figuring myself out with your help, because I really didn't think I had much to give, because I got a high school education. All my kids are college graduates, that's awesome. Even my grandkids are ahead, going to college and high school, and I'm like, wow, how did they get so smart, except for one of my grandkids. Well, two of them actually. And I won't mention names, but one of my grandsons and one of my granddaughters. One is artistic, and the other is just has such a hard time in school reading. Reading was his problem, and doing the same things and just barely passing, being made fun of.
Yeah, it's hard.
It is, because you feel stupid, especially when you get a D and the teacher goes, but I thought you said you studied. Well, I tried, but I didn't understand. No, you're just lazy. Okay. Works for me. So they'll all be lazy, not do it all. If I'm going to get a D for working hard, I'm not going to do it,
Oh.
And that caused me so much grief.
I found that grades were impossible with Matthias. I mean, he'd work really, really hard, but because it was sequential, he'd get an F.
Mhm.
He'd work really, really hard and do it in a way that made sense to his brain and using associations and everything, he'd get a C. He'd work really, really hard and end up working with me to try to figure it out. And he's struggling and not feeling like he got it at all, and he's getting an A. What do grades mean?
They don't mean anything sometimes.
Exactly. And that's exactly why it's so frustrating for both teachers and students, because we don't know what we don't know.
Right. And the thing is those grades follow you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what always terrified me. I'll never amount to because, and God is just good. That's all I could say about that for me. I mean,
Well,
like,
it follows
personally.
you in college, that kind of stuff, but it really doesn't follow you in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Albertsons did not care what grade you made.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They
So we have to
didn't.
be careful how we work
Right.
things for
Right.
kids.
Well, it followed me through school. Yeah.
Yeah, it follows you through school,
Yeah.
but not through real life.
No, not through real life.
Yeah. But it's amazing to me how many things we pick up in school that we think are part of real life and really aren't.
Right. And kids are nowadays are realizing it.
Mhm.
It's like, well, why do we need to have this? Well, history, I think, is important because, we need to know what we've done wrong so we can right it. Otherwise, we'll continue to do the wrong thing. Like history repeats itself type of thing. That's just a basic if we don't do things to alter it.
Well, there's a
But
reason for
science is
all of them.
good.
The science is good.
Math is good.
All of it is good.
Yeah.
It's just how do you do it well for the kids that are there? And some of them early on, they're not going to end up using algebra or geometry ever in their life.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to make sense to them.
Not gonna.
And they do have another we have to do this more basic math to use to take care of money, to take care of the things you have to do. So they do have those programs,
Right.
but to find them early and then not make them feel dumb or stupid because that's not their field.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things they're having to teach kids is and they're still pushing towards college. And I'm just like, you know what? If you're not sequential for your colleges, unless you go to an art school or you go into the trades, does
Right.
not work.
It doesn't. And I went to school, a trade school for a little bit. I was going to go ahead and be a truck driver with my husband. And then for some reason, I couldn't go through with it. The fear of failure.
Yeah.
I had the money in my hand, the grant, everything. But the thought of being on my own for a year driving, I'd have to do that because of who was sponsoring me. What if I fail him? And I just gave the check up. I said, I can't do it. He goes, really? You're here? I said, yeah, I know. I can't. I know I'm not going to make it through.
No.
And I know I could have. Mike taught me how to drive the truck. He did. And I was like, well, okay.
But when we come from a place of perfectionism
Yeah.
and that place of I've never succeeded,
Right.
it's hard to set yourselves up to succeed.
It is. I'm better at it now, but it's never been something that, and I'm not a perfectionist like I used to be. My neighbor still thinks I am a little OCD. But she's probably right. But I know she is. But it's nothing like it used to be, where it controlled my whole life for several years.
Yeah. But you're growing, healing, changing. And one of the things we need to, whether we're teachers or parents, we need to believe in our kids.
Yes.
That they are intelligent, they are capable, no matter what if they can do math or not, or they, you know, they
Can't
think
read well.
or read the way
Yeah, because
we
he
think
could
they ought
read.
to.
My grandson could read. That wasn't the problem.
You can read. The
Oh,
reading
yeah.
part of it's not the
It's not
problem,
the problem.
right? I talked to Heather, and she was made to feel like she couldn't read, but she read her, and her dad had to say she did read this,
Yeah.
but she couldn't tell you those individual pieces.
That was
There's
his problem,
no
my problem.
way to do that, but that didn't mean you didn't read.
And my grandson is part Native Americans and Irish. So there you go. The stories are important. And he was just treated so poorly.
Yeah.
And I hope every parent out there hears, please don't do that because someone is different by their learning habits.
Well, I'm looking forward to when they have questions of how did the person feel?
Yeah. Because I could tell you how they felt.
Right.
My grandson could tell you everything about how they felt, but he was forced to read 4 books a day sometimes, or in a week, 8 books by the parents. And I thought, that's not going to work.
No.
And it just frustrated him more. He did it out of obedience, but he didn't learn a thing from it other than being frustrated.
Matthias last summer before last, he read a ton of books. I know he's been read in a speedy way, you know, the way they teach with pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They were going through his mind. Did he read the and of and those? No. Those don't mean anything to him.
Don't mean anything to me.
Did he skip a line sometimes? Yes. But he understood, because he lives autobiographies, he understood the people's he understood their emotions, and he understood and their value systems.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way things to remember than that?
Yeah, because that's what I would remember. The story itself, it was about these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they were really good. They lived in this part of the world, and you know.
But that's good reading.
I think
I'm sorry,
so.
that is good reading. So, you know, reading just for that sequential learning does not make sense.
No, because I always skip the they, those, that, was, a. I just went through. Sue did that. Christopher saw that. Between the two of them, this is what they did.
So you naturally speed read.
Yeah, I do. And
they have classes on speed reading.
I know, right?
And
I just did it my way. I thought I can read like that because that makes it easy. So I taught myself to do it without taking a class. I'm sure I'm not as fast as any of them, but I'm pretty good.
There you go. It's your life. You get to do the reading, right?
That's right. I do now. I do.
Okay, as we come to a close, is there anything you want to tell our audience?
The main thing is what I said before. Just please don't make your kids ever feel like they're stupid because the teacher says they can't learn. Find out what's going on with the child. See if they are learning a different way. And if they learn a different way, like it can't put things in sequence, in a row, then find out how they do learn and go with that and talk to the teachers and keep in communication with them, because the teachers are just learning this too, right?
It's true.
Don't berate your kids.
Amen. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Janet. And I appreciate everyone that's going to hear this because it's really important for your kids' sake.
Amen.